Gentlemen, thank you for joining us at the 2025 Bentonville Film Festival.
Thanks for having us.
We're glad to have you here. For the viewing audience at home, please tell them a little bit about your piece.
Yeah, so we have a short film in the homegrown portion of the Bentonville Film Festival called The Fundamentals. It was shot here in Bentonville, Arkansas cast, Arkansas crew, 11 minutes, and it's about a young girl who loves the game of basketball, and she discovers the fundamentals of the game as well as the fundamentals of life through her relationship with her father. So that's our short film.
And how did you decide on women's basketball?
Yeah, well, that's a very fun question. So I love the game of basketball, and it really comes from a place of my daughter. I have a daughter who's 4 years old, and I want her to be seen. I want her to grow up and watch this and understand that it came from a place from her perspective. And I think that's something that's missing. You know, you see a lot of films about sports through the male perspective, so to have it from a young girl's perspective was different, and it was something that I clicked to as a writer when I first started writing the whole thing. I just knew that was going to be the perspective from the start.
And the courts you chose to use, some of them, I mean, because I'm out of Texas.
Yeah.
Everything fades, it gets dry, so we don't have all these pretty colors. But these are some vibrant courts, vibrant backboards.
Yeah.
Is that something the city parks do already?
Oh, yeah.
Or is that something you had to do?
Great question. Drew went out there the night before and painted all of them. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Good color palette.
That's such a great question because that is here in Bentonville. That is one of the parks. And like I said, I'm a big lover of basketball, so I play basketball. And one of the people that's actually in the movie, his name's Yazzie, him and I spent summers playing basketball at that court. And so when it came time to choose a location of where this basketball short film was going to be, I wanted it to be there because there's like 8 different sets built into this court. They have the different colored backboards, they have the different colored courts and everything. So that was kind of the challenge of the film too, is like it all takes place in one location, but how do you make this one location feel like 15 different other locations? And so we shot it at different portions. I mean, we had a drone shot of the whole map that kind of just mapped out different portions of the half courts. So it was a pretty intensive process during pre-production of like, where are we going to film this scene? Where are we going to film this scene? And you know, throwing that in with the different times of day, we expanded that too. So we shot sunrise, sunset, golden hour, middle of the day, to make sure that you got the feeling that there's different parts of the day of this court that you have to see. So yes, it is from the city of Bentonville. It was already there. We didn't have to do anything to it. It's really beautiful, and it's its own character in the short film, which I'm really happy about.
On that note too, I mean, you know, Kyle plays it down. It was a big part of his creative process when he was talking about bringing an energy to the film. Like, the colors popping on that court brings such an energy to it, you know, that it does. Like, it builds its own cinematic momentum just being on that court, you know?
Well, and I personally, and this may be me, there's moments where she's thinking different thoughts and things, and I could kind of correlate either the court color or the backboard color to her emotion.
Oh, wow.
So there was some corresponding there, and that may just be me being my wacky self, but I picked up on some of that too.
That was all intentional. Wink, wink. No,
everything we do is
intentional. You did it just for me, yes. Now, you mentioned growing up, you played in these parks. So are you originally here from the Bentonville area?
That's a good question. No, I'm not. My wife is from Northwest Arkansas, so that's what brought me here. But no, I grew up kind of a lot of different places, like Maryland, the Southwest, Arizona, New Mexico. And I think that's a good question, because for me, I learned a lot about basketball growing up in Maryland. And Maryland's a predominantly black community, and all my friends growing up were that. So I like to think that a lot of the influence of this film is from my upbringing in Maryland. And so it has its place. And I think me being kind of a transplant to this area in Bentonville, Arkansas, I think I kind of have this like almost like naked perspective to it all. I mean, this whole film is all shot in natural lighting, and that was super intentional because Arkansas is known as the natural state. And I think when you watch the film, I hope you kind of walk away with it being like, this is breathtaking, this is beautiful, the sunrise, the sunset, the colors. And that's intentional, because we really wanted to show off the natural beauty of our state. And if you would stand at that court at sunrise, it's going to look the exact same way that it does in the film, and that's super intentional.
And what about you, Ken? Are you from the area, or did you transplant here as well?
Yeah, so I'm actually I'm a transplant. I originally grew up in Orange County, California, and I moved to Arkansas like right before high school. So I grew up in Little Rock, and then I came up to Fayetteville for college. But so I'm still living in Fayetteville. But Kyle had me sold on pretty early on with the script of, I want this to feel like Northwest Arkansas. That like shooting on that court is his way of being like a love letter to Bentonville in some ways. And even being so close to Fayetteville, like you feel the magic of Bentonville with it so close. So yeah, I think we both kind of share that perspective of like, there's this naked rawness to like, we want to show Bentonville for like the energy and the popping colors that it is. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think both of our transplant ideologies kind of shaped it a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, this of course was self-funded. Yeah. So for someone who's looking at getting into film, what are some of the factors you look at in deciding how much you have to come up with, and what are some of the options for coming up with that funding?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, it's independent filmmaking. That's kind of the thing. And I'm wearing 10 different hats. Drew's wearing 5 different hats, and that's kind of just what you have to do. And for us, what really kind of dictated our budget is like, what is the most inexpensive way to make this movie? And so we went to lensrental.com and we looked at what's the shortest amount of time that you can rent a camera for, a professional camera. We shot this on a Red camera, and I chose the least expensive camera. And I think the camera we use is like 10 years old. It's like one of the first models of the Red, but it's like you can shoot on that. And so that's what dictated our budget, is what's the shortest time that we can rent this? What's the cheapest camera that we can use of professional quality? What are the cinematic lenses that's the cheapest? And we threw it all in the cart, and then I texted Drew. I'm like, this is how much it's going to cost for 3 days. Yep. And it came out to $500. And we said, okay, you want to split that? And so we split it. And that's how our budget was dictated. And I love our film for that. I think it really brought this guerrilla filmmaking style to what we do. And I've been saying it, we were interviewed last night on the red carpet too, but you have to like pinch yourself, because it's like, in a way, I don't really feel like we belong in that room, because the conversations that you have with the producers in that room, it's like, yeah, ours was $200, $300. And I'm like, oh yeah, ours was too, $500. And they're like, no, 200,000, 300,000. I was like, oh, yeah, okay.
You got some extra zeros going there.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and so and I love our film for that, because it was all hands on deck. Everyone contributed, and I don't think there's any restrictions. I don't think there's any excuses for anybody that doesn't want to make a film. I think all the resources are there, and if you have a lot of people that believe in it, you can get it done. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, something Kyle said early on is you're wearing multiple hats. You got to be able to be adaptable on the set. Like, he may be director, but he's also director of photography. He's a producer in his own right. I might be, I may be producer, but I might have to hold a boom mic for like a whole shoot, and so, yeah, and I did.
He was in charge of like dimming down the room. He had to put curtains up. Mm-hmm. That was your job one of those days.
So definitely like learning to cut corners without compromising the integrity of the film. Like I think that's one of the biggest things you gotta learn. We're still learning how to do it. It's not easy, but it's the fun of it.
Well, I think the other thing too is like independent filmmakers, if we had all the money and all the resources, we could probably make what we want to make. But there's this part that him and I agree on creatively, that like, if this is the location that's being given to us, if this is the actor or the actress that is being given to us, like, that's probably fate. Like, that's just telling us like, okay, that's the type of movie that we're gonna have to make, because that's all that's been given to us. And I think that's a really important creative mindset to have when you're independent filmmakers. It's like, we don't have a lot of argument in this fight. We just have to go with what's free, what's available, and and we did, and somehow we made this movie.
And how did it feel when you found out you'd been accepted into the Bentonville Film Festival?
Oh my gosh. We had a conversation early on, pre-production, where we kind of shared our dreams and visions of like, where do we want this to go? And Bentonville Film Festival was on the top for me. I wasn't touching a camera. I wasn't near any kind of filmmaking process 5 years ago, even though I went to film school. But I heard about this festival, and I was inspired by it, by its vision, by its mission. And I had the opportunity to interview Gina Davis a few months ago, and I shared that with her. I said, it was your film festival that inspired me to like, what can I make here in Bentonville that could hopefully, you know, get me close to that room, to that festival. And this ended up being that project. So when I got it, it comes as an email. You get an email, and I'm, you know, sitting there on the couch, and I get it, and I cannot believe it. I'm just like, so I didn't even read the email. I just saw the first sentence where it's like, hey, you're going to be a part of it. And I went to my wife, and I had her read it out loud, and she was so excited for us. And then the second person I called is Drew.
Yeah, I think Kyle summed it up perfectly. You know, we knew early on that this was the festival that we wanted to hit. So it's a big moment of validation, you know, that like people also saw the vision that we had worked on so hard, you know. And again, like we made it as a love letter to Northwest Arkansas to some extent. So to see that region celebrating it the way it is incredibly gratifying.
And now you have some validation that even without that second 3 sets of zeros, you do belong here. What can we watch for? What should we expect to see? Where are you at with your next adventures?
Well, yes, Drew and I are going to be here for a while. We found a really great creative partnership, and I think at the heart of that is inclusion and diversity. We want to make stories that represent, you know, different faces, different cultures, and that's something I hold very dearly. And I think maybe that's just growing up where I grew up, maybe Maryland or being in Arizona or New Mexico. But we do have 2 projects up here. We have one currently in pre-production that we're casting for. It's kind of our love letter to movie theaters and the midnight premieres that were once, you know, a thing 20 years ago. And so we're really excited about it. We're going to be shooting here in Rogers, Arkansas. We have a whole theater that we're collaborating with the local theater, and we're currently casting for that, and that's going to be a very special project. And then the second one that we're working on is probably going to take us out of Arkansas. It's going to take us back to Arizona. I'm indigenous. I'm a Navajo filmmaker, and so our next short film after that would be returning to the Navajo reservation and creating a short film based around that culture and that family. And so it's already written, and that's very early in the process, but those are the next 2 that are up for us, and we're really excited about it.
Yeah, and on that note, like Kyle said, we have a whole movie theater that we're going to be shooting in, and we need tons of extras for that. Yeah. So if there's any extras in Northwest Arkansas or the region that...
Where do they follow? How do they find out when the interviews, casting...
Yep, any
sessions?
casting, you can email me at itskennethclark@gmail.com. That's ITS Kenneth Clark, CLARK @gmail. You can also follow us on socials. My Instagram is the same, it's Kenneth Clark.
Simple. Yeah. Kyle.Yazzie, that's my Instagram, and LinkedIn, Facebook. I mean, we're pretty available. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, and I hope to see you all next year.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.